you might get a promotion based off of your skill, but you're really only going to move forward with any sort of momentum if you can communicate well.
Here's today's hypothesis. You don't need the deepest voice, the tallest frame, or the loudest presence to own a room. I want to test that theory today with someone who, by physical measure, is impossible to miss in a crowd. He's over 6 feet tall, and I'm 5'2", the person you're likely to miss in that same crowd. But Jeff has this extremely unique ability to fill a room, not just with storytelling and with polished public speaking, but with an ability to make every single person feel seen and heard in his audience. And here's the thing, it might not have started that way for Jeff. He might have had to build this skill just like you can. Well, we'll find out today because we're talking about executive presence, confidence, and what actually makes people listen when you speak. And we're testing whether anyone can do this, regardless of your starting point, how deep your voice is, or how tall you are. Hi, it's Jamie here at the Leadership Laboratory, where ambitious women come to build confidence, skills, and community to lead on their terms. Before we dive in, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please do so now so you never miss an episode. And come find us on YouTube where you can catch the full conversation and share your thoughts and comments with me directly. I read them all and I truly love hearing from you. Okay, let's get into it. My guest today, I am so excited to spend this time with him. Has spent more than a decade as an executive communication coach, speechwriter, and keynote speaker. He cut his teeth at Duarte, a revered organization in the world of leadership communication. And today he runs his own firm, Davenport Communications, where he works with Fortune 10, that's not a typo, Fortune 10 C-suite executives, engineers, and sales teams, helping all kinds of people say what they mean and be heard when they say it. And fun fact, the first time I saw Jeff was not on a professional stage. It was on God's stage as a teaching pastor at my church. This man can hold a room and tell a story like nobody I know. Jeff, welcome to the Leadership Laboratory podcast.
Jamie, it's very good to be here. Wouldn't it be funny if that's how I start, like after that big roll up? I'm so glad to be here. Jamie, I am very glad to be here. When you hit me up for this, I was like, oh, of course, this is great. I'm super excited. So what can I say? And by the way, you've kind of communicated like I'm some sort of wrestling giant. My height is largely overrated.
Well, we are happy to have you here in all measures. And I want to start off with a true or false question, almost a fact check, if you will, because I'm struggling to believe that this is true. True or false, in high school, you were voted least likely to be remembered. I can't.
We'll call that a half truth. That was not an actual superlative, voted least likely to be remembered. It's one I made up. But it's true in spirit. I think if they gave me that award, everyone would go, I'm sorry, who's getting this award? We don't know who that guy is. So I was a wallflower in high school. I was just a very, very shy, and I would even add socially awkward kid. The idea of talking to a group of people was intimidating to me. I would say, probably hit up anybody in high school who I possibly knew, that I had trouble connecting one-on-one with people. And I know a lot of people are socially awkward at that age. I took the cake. And when I got out into college, I started to push myself a little. I wanted to get out there a little more. I worked at the campus radio station. Maybe I could try to push through some of this. And then ended up getting jobs as doing public speaking. And I say all that to say, if you're listening and you're thinking, man, I'm just not cut out for doing public speaking or speaking up in a meeting, I'm there with you. Like, I am a barely functioning introvert. I would much rather be by myself, but I've been thrust into situations where I had to learn all of this stuff the hard way.
Yeah. Well, and you have such a great, we'll get to this in today's conversation. You've got so many great tips and like tactical steps that you can take, which sounds like you had to learn the hard way initially and have now packaged nice and neatly to be able to share and empower others.
It was what I ended up doing, honestly, was this was my public speaking trajectory, is I had to start doing a lot of public speaking. Wasn't that great at it because some things okay, some things not great. And I would just start to imitate people. And I would go, I like the way they talk. And I would imitate them and do what they would do. And it was really, really kind of cool because I was able to assess. And then once I started doing coaching, I had to go, now, why did what I just do work? When I just spoke, why did that work? Oh, it's because I did this with my voice. Or why did people seem distracted? Oh, it's because I was doing this with my body. I need to change those things. And I would say to anybody, a little lesson from my life is there's a guy named Todd Henry. He's a great author, thinker. And he says, he points out the Beatles started off as a cover band. They would play R&B hits. And then eventually they got sick of it. And they went, John went like, oh, I wrote a song. And then they would do an original song. And that's how they got going. All of us, to some degree in our fields, need to kind of be a cover band at first. Watch other people and go, okay, that person just spoke up in that meeting. I like the way they did this. Or I saw the way that person did this. I didn't care for that. Oh, okay, now I can start to imitate what I like. And eventually you'll move into having your own way of doing it.
I love that. Yeah. And it's social learning theory, right? Like to be it, you have to see it. And so be intentional, picking out what you liked and what you want to do, as well as what you don't want to do. Did you ever watch your own films, which is such a cringe activity,
it's the worst,
but so worthy or so worth it, I should say.
It is. And it's still medicine I have to take to this day, where everyone loves to have a recording of their talks. No one wants to watch them. But you're never going to see stuff until you watch it. So you have to pull those up. And it's when I've realized that there was a weird thing I was doing with my legs. And I'm like, why am I doing? Okay, well, now I can correct it. Somebody can tell you all day long, but until you see it yourself. So sometimes as a coach, I will review game film with clients right there and go, we're not going to watch the whole thing. We're going to watch a few of these things. And they go, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. So it's helpful. I don't like doing it. Nobody does. It's helpful.
Yep. I'm right there with you. You and I have a shared love for metaphors. I never metaphor I didn't like. Haha. And I've heard you say that the beginning of a talk is like the top button of your shirt. What does that mean?
Anybody put on a shirt in the morning, a little button shirt, and like you're kind of sleepy and you get the first button wrong? Well, every other button is going to be out of whack. And when I coach communicators, if they're asking me about content, I rarely focus on the guts of the presentation. Like we'll touch on some of that. More often than not, we're spending the vast majority of our time talking about the opening. Most people's opening, so let's say it's just not casual, but let's say it's just a presentation in a meeting or something. They're going to start by going, okay, everyone, so today we're going to talk about the project update. And then they kind of dive in. They say a topic. Now, the problem with that, I mean, there's some benefit to that. Oh, great. That's what we're talking about. The downside of that is that you're missing an opportunity to help your audience better or more easily understand how this topic matters to them. So instead of saying, hey, everyone, we're going to do this update on the project, you say, this project is designed to do this. Now you're giving the goal in mind. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. My hope is that by the end of this, we feel assured it's heading in the right direction. Or we need to make a decision by the end of this. Well, if you do something like that, everybody's sitting there going, thank goodness there is direction for this. Everybody in a meeting has one primary fear. It's not spiders or tornadoes. It's the fear of wasted time. When you start well, everybody goes, this is not going to be a waste of my time. When you start a podcast well with that thesis statement, I love that. Most people start off with, thanks everyone for joining us. You're going, hey, I'm coming out hot and telling you why this is going to be valuable to you. I love that. If you're giving a keynote in front of a group of people, don't start with, hey, everybody, I'm Jeff Davenport. Start with something empathetic. Let them know you know what they're trying to accomplish and what's standing in the way, and that in that moment, you're the right person to help them. I call that opening empathy, authority, and then agenda. Hey, I understand people like you. You're trying to do this. This is really hard. It's difficult to do that. I've done this for a number of years. I've worked with people like you, and I think I can help. And so during the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. Empathy, authority, agenda.
Empathy, authority, agenda. I love it. And this is a great opportunity to give a shout out to anyone listening to this podcast from Texas Instruments, because I'm heading there next week to impart some public speaking skills on a group of engineers. And exactly what you just said, Jeff, is what we'll be doing. We're not going to focus on the guts so much. We're going to start on the beginning, the nerves, the closing, and a few other things in between. So that's great reinforcement of the message they're about to hear.
That's so good. And, I love engineers. And so what I'm about to say negative about you engineers, please take it in light of. I love you engineers. I work with you all the time. Engineers have a tendency to assume they're always talking to other engineers. And that's generally not the case. They're having to translate their engineering mind to audiences that are not necessarily engineering minded. So it's a translation situation. I always think of it this way. I was just teaching a group right before this. Let's say a weather person talks to another weather person. What's the weather going to be tomorrow? The other weather person can go, well, there's an occluded front and this warm front and the isobars, and the weather person's going to go, got it. But if it's a little kid and goes, what's the weather going to be tomorrow? If that weather person goes, well, there's an occluded front, the kid's going to go, I don't know what to do with that. The weather person needs to say, it's going to be chilly and rainy, bring a jacket. Like, it's as simple as that. And if the kid wants more, well, how do you know that? Then the weather person go, well, when a warm front hits a cold front, that causes moisture. Then they can go to that. Engineers have too much of a tendency to talk to other engineers and by the way, I'm beating up on engineers. It's true with everybody. Marketing people assume everybody's a marketing person. Communications people assume everybody thinks in terms of communication. Not the case. We need to disabuse ourselves of that notion and focus more on who are they and what do they need?
Yep. Who's your audience? What will speak to them? How are you going to speak their language? Yeah. And we're going to do that in the workshop too. So what a great,
love it.
what a great lead-in.
Yeah.
Well, something I know engineers love, I love, my listeners, the lab cats love, the members of my community, is a checklist. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if you could help us put together a bit of a checklist when you are preparing for a talk. Let's say a talk like at your company, just anywhere between 3 to 20 people in the room, something like that. Where should people start, or what are some of the things that they should focus on to deliver and speak with that authority and empathy and the things you're emphasizing?
The primary thing is this: if you can answer this question, everything else is going to hang off of this. How can I help them? And I know that sounds like a really simple question, but if your thought is, okay, we're going to talk about this topic over here, how can I help them? You're going to be headed in the right direction. It's that empathetic, audience-focused presentation mindset. So I would say, first off, answer the question, how can I help them? The second question I would ask myself is, what do they already know about this topic? The third one would be, what do they misunderstand about this topic? That's a really important one. And then I would zero in on, I'm kind of doing this on the fly, this little checklist. I like something at Duarte, the company I used to work at, we used to talk about move from, move to. And the idea was every audience comes into a talk, what small or big, with certain way of looking at it. How do you believe that should change by the end? And I'll adjust that to say in terms of what they think, how they feel, and what they do. And by the end, they should think something probably different, feel something different, and be ready to do something different. That's a good litmus test for success. If you've changed how they think, feel, and act, you know you've done your job. So I would zero in towards that. That's more of the content type. And I would also add on there, my checklist would be, do I have an opening that is empathy, authority, agenda? That'd be another one I would add. Then when it comes to delivery, bringing it to life with your voice, hands, body, eyes, face, I would think constantly in terms of, am I communicating confidence and am I communicating clarity? Really what you're trying to hit is confidence and clarity with your voice, hands, body, eyes, face, and we can unpack some of that.
Yeah, and I would love to unpack that, especially on the confidence side. We also share that in common. It's one of our favorite subjects. And it's such a huge thing because I think there's a lot of great public speakers, but when nerves start to get in the way or confidence gets unrattled, like That's where it just feels like it's not just you missed the top button. It's just like, where are the buttons even at all? So
Yes.
what's some of your advice on that, or your thoughts on being able to build that confidence and manage the nerves?
First off, I always like to tell people, including myself, it's natural to be nervous. I mean, rarely are we in physical danger. It's very rare we're in physical danger. We are often in social danger. And by social danger, I mean when you stand up in that meeting and there's some important people in that room, your reputation is suddenly at stake. You could say something stupid and they will forever think you're stupid. Your, hair could look weird and they're going, that's the person with the weird hair. I don't know what it is. So yes, there are things that are at stake, but we've got to pull back from that a little bit and go, okay, yes, that's natural, but I also have the opportunity. It's turning things from a deficit to a positive. I have the opportunity to help them. I have the opportunity to communicate that I'm the right person to listen to. So when it comes to being confident, a couple of things. One is I like to zero in on the audience. How am I there to help them? But part and parcel with that is answering this question. Why am I the one presenting? And if you don't have a good answer for that, it's going to show up as a lack of confidence. If you're like, well, I don't know, my boss told me. Go deeper. Why did your boss ask you? Well, because he couldn't make it. Okay, but why you? I've seen stuff like this before. Okay, keep going. Well, a year ago, I faced something like this and we did this and it didn't go well at first, but it eventually went well. There it is. You have experience that someone else in the room doesn't have. If you cannot accurately answer the question for yourself, why am I the one presenting? It's going to show up in a lack of confidence. Have you, Jamie, I assume you've experienced something like that yourself.
Oh yeah. It's one of the things I do for myself. And one of the things I coach on too is knowing, like, when you step in front of your audience, you're the subject matter expert on something you're presenting. And if you don't feel that way when it's been assigned to you, make yourself the subject matter expert. One of the things I coach my ladies on is, for every slide that you have in your presentation, have two behind each one. In other words, if the topic of this slide is XYZ, make sure you've got a slide behind it that has ABC and then another one that has DEF. And know that you know more than your audience. And sure, did they have experience and you don't have in areas that you don't have? Of course, but you're coming to this as a humble subject matter expert who, of course, is not omniscient about the topic. But yeah, that's a responsibility I think you have in front of any audience, is to have some information that they don't have, because otherwise, why is it worth their time to be sitting there?
And you'll feel it. It will come across to them, and you'll feel it yourself. And the opposite is true. When you feel like, gosh, I'm really prepared, I am the right person, they're going to feel it and you're going to feel it. I think also I want to help people be careful. You're never going to prepare for everything. Like, it's not possible. Like you can't. So I like to give a little flow chart for saying, I don't know, in a meeting. I think we've all been trained to not lie, hopefully, not make something up, and to say, I don't know. But I there's a better way of saying I don't know in a meeting. So let's say someone asks you a really challenging question. These are the beats I train people on to say, I don't know. You say, first off, okay, you know what? I don't have that information. I can get it from Bill in accounting. I think I can have it for you by Tuesday at 5. Does that sound good? So what you do is you confess the ignorance kindly to yourself. Second, you tell them how you're going to get it. Third is the real key. You put a timestamp on it. Because if you don't put a timestamp on it, they're going to go, yeah, right. But if you go, I can get it to you Tuesday by 5, and then you have them sign off. Does that sound good? Nobody is going to go, oh, no. They're going to go, oh, yeah, that sounds like a plan. And it'll move along. So that 4-step, I don't have that information. Here's how I'm going to get it. Here's the timestamp. Does that sound good to you? Great way to say, I don't know. So that's going to help you with your confidence, because you can try to get everything prepared as much as you can. You're going to have gaps. It'll be all right. Just know how you're going to admit those gaps and what you're going to do about it.
I that is such gold. And that is one of the number one questions I hear. Like, what about when I don't know the answer to a question? I also heard somebody reframe her mindset on that. And she said, you know, if I'm in a room with executives who are above me on the org chart and they're not challenging me with a question I don't know the answer to, essentially, they're not doing their job.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So that helps her shift her mindset. And then I love what you shared too, Jeff, is like, okay, so have the framework. So just be honest about it. I don't have it. Here's where I can get it. And here's when I'll get back to you. And what I've also noticed is that it's a nugget of a relationship capital building that you get when you have the opportunity to follow up with them, because so few people do. And when you do, that's another touch point. That's another opportunity for visibility. That's another way to show your integrity and your initiative. So you can view it as a gift. Like if somebody asks you a question you don't know the answer to, just in your mind go, oh, awesome. Now I get another touch point with this person. And now you've got the words to articulate it as well.
Yeah, let's call it an integrity touch point. Because
Love
when
it.
you follow up the next day, what you're saying is, I told you I'd do it and I did it. And too often in business, it's not that people are just trying to dodge things. They get busy. What happens is it didn't get prioritized. And you're saying, this was a priority to me. And I am communicating that to you.
Yeah, this was a priority. You are a priority.
I think another big element of confidence, I'm such a believer in, if I'm sure you've shared this a number of times, but Amy Cuddy's TED Talk about power stance and all that kind of stuff. I'm a big believer in that. And I'm a big believer in doing that before a talk, but I'm also a big believer in, so often if I'm in front of a group of people, and let's say I'm looking out and they look really intimidating. Well, my body's going to start to reflect that because I'm going to start to shrink up. My bad habit is I rub the back of my neck. I hold one arm as if I just gave blood. It's me trying to protect myself. And in that moment, my brain is going, we are nervous. My body goes, yeah, let's show it. And it's hard to change your brain in that moment. Hey, quit being nervous. That's not going to help. But according to Cuddy, and I've proven this true across my career, if I will stand like a confident person, I will feel like a confident person. So my good buddy is the most confident guy I've ever met. He's not arrogant. He's just confident. And I often think, how would Stephen be standing up here? And I go, oh, feet shoulder width apart, shoulders squared, voice a little bit stronger. And when I do that, even if it's fake, it sounds right. And my brain goes, who's that confident guy up on stage? Hey, it's me. It actually works. I call it the body-brain feedback loop. So if you ever find yourself, so you're doing good, and then all of a sudden you're up in front of the people and your voice is getting tight and you're kind of rushing through things because you can feel those nerves. In that moment, tell yourself, how would a confident person talk and stand right now? Well, voice is probably going to go a little lower, a little stronger, bigger body. Do that, pretend it for a moment, and it will start to feel like reality to you.
Yep. The body brain connection is so powerful. And for any loyal listeners on here, you know that I can't stand the phrase fake it till you make it because it's the mindset, the fraudulence. But what I do like to say is rehearse until it's verse, which speaks to what you're saying. Like, even if you don't genuinely believe it in the moment, if it's not something that feels natural to you yet, of course not, because you haven't done it enough. But when you put in the reps and you put in the rehearsal, eventually it does become verse. And so body can lead mind can lead body. It can work either way. And I love that you had a reference again. Steve was the name of your buddy?
Yeah, my buddy Steven.
Again, like, to be it, you have to see it. So who's your person that you can reference? With the body language, Jeff, is knowing we're talking to an audience of many women, and we're often smaller in stature. One of the things that I was taught was take up space. And I've heard you say, I love how you say this, don't whisper with your hands.
Don't mumble. Yeah.
Don't mumble with your hands. Can you tell us what that means, or how to take up space in a way that feels authentic and not like you're center stage of a Broadway show, which would be way too far out of the comfort zone?
Yeah, I say this, we all, I would say across genders, we all have some sort of gag reflex about something in terms of delivery. For me, sometimes it's my voice. Like, I feel like a gag reflex when my voice gets too loud. I've had to push through that because I know if I'm going to be in front of a group of people, I need them to hear me. So I normally have kind of a higher pitched, a little quieter voice. I know I've got to push past that and I think the same with body language. I don't want anybody faking it real big and knocking, Bill's coffee cup out of his hand. That just seems ersatz. It's a little of that fake. But if you can get the right mindset and go, I belong in this room, I belong in this space. I'm not going to do small hand movements. So, it was 20%, now it's at 38%. Okay, that's mumbling with your hands. It was 20%, now it's 38%. Bigger hand movements. My old coaching buddy used to say, be a pterodactyl, not a T-Rex. Like, move larger, especially in front if you're standing up in front of a group of people. That brings up a question I'm often asked. If I'm presenting at a table, do I stand up or not? And, that can go a couple of ways. I'll just give a little bit of advice. I like it when I'm standing and they're sitting because it's a bit of authority move. Now, if it's not normal and you suddenly stand, everybody's going, is she new here? Like, we don't do that. You might be able to say it this way. Hey, would it be okay if I stand? I just feel a little more comfortable. Nobody's going to go, no, you can't feel comfortable. Hey, would it be okay if I stand? And then be standing while you say it, because then nobody's going to go, sit down. Standing up, it's going to feed that confidence. It's going to allow you to move a little more. It's two things communicate authority. When I take up the space that I've been given, and this will sound like the opposite, but it's not, it goes with it. When I show self-control. So there's a guy named Chase Hughes. He did all this research. He basically said, when someone shows self-control with their body, no fidgeting, no unnecessary movements, it's read as a sign of authority. Isn't that strange? So take up your space, but don't do nonsense movements that don't add to anything. That undercuts that authority. Move with purpose. Move your body with purpose. Move your hands with purpose. And when they're not doing anything with purpose, be still. That communicates authority.
Hi, Lab Cats and listeners. A quick announcement for you. In today's episode, you will hear me refer to the PQ score and the saboteurs. And self-awareness of these two is a game changer in elevating your life, advancing your career, and moving through obstacles faster. These are not just ethereal concepts. As a certified PQ coach, I'm granting you access to 2 assessments so that you can learn your PQ score and diagnose your saboteurs. I'll share these with you, though, under one condition: you approach your results with curiosity, not judgment. When you're judging, you ain't budging, but when you stay curious, that is where your growth and your transformation occurs. So do we have a deal? Great. Okay, back to today's episode. What do you think is a way to train yourself to be still? Because I remember times in my career, and actually it was interesting because this also happened last summer in a personal environment, but let me go back to the professional first, where my kneecaps would shake. And I was like, what do I even do about that? And it hadn't happened for a while. And then it was interesting because I was asked to speak at my goddaughter's wedding last summer, and I had a long dress on, thankfully, but I was like, oh my gosh, there's my kneecap shaking again. And I hadn't gone through my breathing exercises and things that I do before I walk on a professional stage. But what's your advice on that? How do you like when you're saying I want to be still, but what if your body's like, oh, you're cute, we're gonna shake right now.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shake you up, pal. I think first off, a lot of times it's not as noticeable as you might think it is. So sometimes give yourself a break. I'm a big fan of it's sort of cognitive behavioral therapy, but in a moment you go, yeah, it makes sense. It would make sense. Well, when you go, hey, self, it makes sense that my knee might be bopping along because there's all these people looking at me. You know what happens? Your knee doesn't move as much because your brain just went, this is okay. You're taking away some of that heightened awareness and going, of course I would. Of course I would. I think it's also, if you have little tells like that, watch it in totally social situations, not just at a wedding, because that's a big moment. But do you do that when you're hanging out with people? Maybe not. Maybe you do. I find that it's better to train yourself on getting rid of verbal fillers, unnecessary hand movements, that kind of thing, in social settings. Because if you'll get rid of them when you're hanging out with your spouse talking, you'll be less likely to do them in the professional setting. Too often we go, well, I'll focus on it when it's over here in high stakes. Well, what about the 30 hours that you've spent during your week just hanging out with people? Hit it here. it'll be more likely to show up here. And I think the real thing, especially with the nervous tells, is, again, remind yourself, hey, it's natural that I would be doing that. How can I help them? Like, how can I communicate something great to them about my goddaughter? Okay, now suddenly you're switching that focus from, oh, what are they thinking? What do they need? What can I give them right now?
Yep. I love that. So calling it out, we call that name it to tame it.
There you go. That's good.
Intelligence terms. And I also love what you're saying, like practice in the low stakes environment. Be aware of that. And that's exactly what we do in the sister community to the podcast. And I've watched women, introverted women, shy women, women who used to tremble at the thought of giving a presentation, learn to command the room because they've practiced on the things that actually build the presence. Just some of the things that you're saying right now, how you speak, how you stand, how you hold yourself, how you call out the thing that's not working in the moment that most of the time people aren't noticing, but it's something that you can do in the moment to regain your control and project your authority and presence.
And it always comes back to, how do you think of yourself? And let's say there's 3 spots here. Over here, I don't know, I barely show up. I'm the worst. I can't, I'm just happy I'm in this room right now. Okay, that's a bad place. I would say there's a bad place over here, which is this, I've seen this in a lot of people in business settings. It's this hyper inflated, I am the right, that drives me. That's so phony baloney. Right here it's like a calm assurance that, you know what? I've seen things that they haven't seen. I have a very valuable perspective on this. I don't have to prove that to anyone. It's going to come out through my demeanor and the things that I say, but I don't have to come over here. Both of these people ruin meetings. This person right here, gold standard. It's where we all want to be.
Yep. And I love that you're saying that, because that's another thing we talk about in the leadership laboratory is less proving, more presence.
Yeah. You have great little phrases there.
Well, likewise. Thank
that's
you.
Great. Yeah. Less prove it, more presence. So going back to, engineers, or there's something, I say engineers, it really anybody, if you are questioning your spot in that moment, you're going to fall into temptation to justify your existence. And the answers to questions that you're asked will be voluminous, because I got to prove that I know all this stuff, as opposed to someone going, do you think we can launch this on Friday? Yeah, I think that's possible because we're going to do this. Great. I have executives all the time telling me, will you coach these people and give me a short answer to a question? We give long answers for 2 reasons. One, because we want to cover over every edge case. It's really CYA. We want to make sure nobody catches us on something. And the other is there is this temptation to go, I need to prove to you. I need to prove to you. I need to prove to you. No, you don't. You're going to prove with your presence.
And be far more succinct.
Yes.
All right. So I love this checklist that we have going. We've talked about managing nerves. We've talked about confidence. We've talked about the body language. We've talked about specific things that you can say and how to say them succinctly, how to practice. Could we switch to what happens if you make a mistake? And I would love to share with you what my personal strategy is on this, and you can tell me if it's good or bad or right or wrong. But there's 2 things. I have two strategies with this. One is that before I go into a big talk, I just tell myself, Jamie, you're going to make one little mistake. Like, it's going to happen. And that's not setting me up for failure. It's just really the reality of, and I've asked this of surgeons and pilots, like, there's no such thing as a perfect surgery. There's no such thing as a perfect flight. There's no such thing as a perfect presentation. And as someone who is a recovering perfectionist, when I give myself that freedom to be like, you're just going to make one mistake. Okay. So then if it happens, when it happens, I just go, okay, there it was. And I just keep moving. And then when it does happen, and I've noticed, and this happens especially when I'm tired. So like when I came back from maternity leave, but was fully functioning as a professional, I will combine words that are not meant to be combined. Like leadership communication comes out leaderation. And what I'll usually do is either nothing, just say it correctly and move on. Or sometimes I'll make a joke and say, oh, sometimes I make up words, then correct myself and then keep going. But basically my strategy for this is if I screw something up, I just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, what's the alternative? Oh man, I blew it. I am the worst. then it's sudden. No, I totally agree. Yes, if you go, I'm probably going to make a mistake. Great. Okay, I'm human. They don't want perfection that they might say they do. They don't want perfection. They want you. They want you in the moment. You can correct things. I'll guarantee you, Jamie, just sort of a little behind the scenes. I will hang up from this and go, man, I said that in a weird way. Or I, I feel like I talk too much. Or I'll have some sort of thing. And that's okay. Like I can go, all right, next time. That's a growth mindset. Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Great. I did those things. It doesn't define me. I'm going to learn, get better next time. That's totally fair. I think also is that you're coming into a moment and just assuring yourself, look, I'm a human being. I will make mistakes. That's perfectly fine. It's still communicating some amount of confidence. Don't let those mistakes that happen in the moment drive you nuts. I think also there's a lot of, I think what we're getting at here is there's a lot of pre-work that has to happen. And part of the pre-work, we used to do this with clients at Duarte's, we would talk with them before they would give big talk and go, basically what we'd say is, how good is your identity? Meaning, how zeroed in are you on your identity? What I mean by that is, if okay, I'm let's say I hang up from this and go, I blew it. Well, that's okay, and I can call you and apologize and go, I'm sorry I did this. I should have done this. I should have done this. But if it touches my identity, well, I'm going to feel high stakes all the time. But if I hang up and go, gosh, I don't think I handled that very well, I might call and apologize to Jamie. But you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say to myself, I'm still a husband. I'm still a father of two great girls. I'm still running my business. I've still got some expertise here. I'm okay. It'll be okay. If you go into a situation, especially a business situation, with your identity on the chopping block, that it could possibly be affected, heck yes, every mistake is going to feel like it is identity level. Do not let these things get to identity. They may think differently of you. They may in the moment think less of you. That's all right. If your identity is secure, you're going to be okay. And you're actually going to be less likely to make mistakes, because when your identity is on the line, your stakes are really high. And then suddenly you're feeling nervous, and then you're going to make the mistakes that you don't want to make.
I love that. And then you're putting your energy into what you can control, i.e. yourself, versus what you can't, which is everybody else and their opinions and all the things that come with that.
Totally true. It's I mean, it's the old thing. If I'm bringing an idea to a talk, my little card here, let's say this is the idea. If I hold it right here in front of my heart, if they criticize it, they're not only criticizing the idea, they're criticizing me. But if I put the idea out here and they criticize it, that's okay. They're criticizing the idea. It's not at my identity level. And I can also criticize and go, yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, actually, this doesn't quite work, but I think this. Great, we're now objective about it. And I think it's the same with mistakes. If mistakes are right here, ooh, it's going to hurt worse than it should.
Yeah, you're inviting the dialogue rather than the evaluation.
That's right. Yes. And we're all evaluated all the time. Every listener is evaluating me right now. This is what happens. That's okay. Yeah. But just try not to let it get to identity level.
The world will keep turning.
It sure will. This is a phrase I love. Anytime you feel like things are getting super serious in a business thing. So there's this TV writer I follow, and she wrote on these big shows in the 90s and 2000s. And on one of the shows she wrote on, they would all in the writer's room get super serious about some episode of a show coming up on Tuesday and da-da-da-da-da. And then to calm everyone down, someone would always throw this phrase out: in 100 years, all new people. In 100 years, all new people. Meaning, we're all vapors. Like, if we take this too serious, nobody's going to, on their deathbed, go, I took the Tuesday morning meeting too seriously. No.
I remember that one mistake my direct report made on that Tuesday.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yes. In coaching, we call that future casting. Putting in perspective.
Yes. Your listeners may have heard this before, but if I put a 2x4 on the ground and I say walk across this, you're going to go, yeah, that's fine. But if I took that exact 2x4 and put it between two skyscrapers, you're probably going to fall off. And the reason isn't because you're worse at walking on a board. It's because you're going to feel so tense because the stakes are so high that you'll be more likely to make a mistake. So when this, now there are stakes within a meeting, but if they're overly inflated, you'll get tense, and that's when you do wrong. Let the stakes be what they actually are. Don't inflate them, and you'll be less likely to make the mistakes that you don't want to make. Not that you'll be perfect, but you'll be less likely.
Yeah. And again, focus on that presence instead of the proving. Yeah. And I've watched that again and again, that moment when a woman, she stops shrinking, she starts practicing presence on purpose, and everything shifts: how she's heard, how she's received, how she's promoted, ultimately how she's compensated, how she feels. And that's not a coincidence. I mean, that's work, and it makes my heart sing every time I hear a success story on it.
I would say to that person who wants what you just described, maybe this will help. The process there feels like this. If you're listening, the process feels like small incremental things that aren't really doing anything. You're like, I tried that and it was really fake, and it's just going to feel like you're barely, and you're gonna want to give up. You're gonna want to give up. But what I've seen in people is it's like suddenly there is a quantum leap up, and it happens almost overnight. And it's only because you've pushed through, this is weird, this isn't me, this is all. And then it's not like it gradually gets better. There's usually a jump up, and people be like, what did you have for breakfast? And you're suddenly feeling like a different person.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I've heard so many people say, wait, Jamie, was it really that simple? Like those little steps, right? Like, was it really that? I don't want to use the word trivial, but it was just it was so much smaller than what it had been built up to in their head. And then you do the thing, you get the experience, you get the hit of dopamine, and you're like, oh, neat. Well, now what can I do?
That's right. It's that dopamine. When you start to feel it yourself. My sister was in college. She dropped a penny in a grocery store and didn't pick it up. And some old timer picked it up and followed her and goes, 100 of these make $1. And that's always stuck with me. It's the small incremental things that add up. And if we think, well, it's just big things, we're really kind of deluding ourselves. It's the small adjustments that add up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, let me ask you one question on the personal side, if that's okay. And then
Sure.
We'll hone in on an experiment for our listeners to try. But you mentioned your husband, you're a dad, you've got a beautiful family, a wife and 2 daughters. So you're surrounded by incredible women. And I'm curious, how do you coach or empower them on public speaking?
Well, our daughters go to a fabulous school that highly prizes public speaking. So I'll say, if you're a mom out there and you got daughters, do what you can to get them to do public speaking early on. When we visited the school to kick the tires, what sold us was, at the end of watching a class of like second graders, was every kid walked up to us afterwards, shook our hands, looked us in the eye, and said, very good to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Davenport. I was like, when I was in second grade, I would have crawled under the desk. And not only that, but our girls have to memorize poems and speeches and deliver them as what they call a speech meet at our school. I'm so proud of my 13-year-old. She memorized a 14-minute speech, and delivered it word for word, with confidence. And she's not the biggest kid in her class, with gusto and confidence. Both kids do that. So when they do that kind of thing, I'm all like, yes, way to go. I think it's identifying any time that you can do this with coworkers, anybody who you can encourage. And by encourage, I don't mean, hey, let's have. I mean, hey, we're really doing this with our girls. Hey, when you did this, boy, that showed this. Hey, when we were at the restaurant and the waiter asked what you wanted and you didn't mumble, that was great. Do that with your coworkers. If, again, don't give unsolicited feedback, but like, hey, they'll go, hey, you're really terrible at what you do. Let me tell you why you did it good. But if somebody's like, hey, be willing to offer that and go, hey, I like that you spoke up there. I think that was great. And that was so necessary for what we needed. Well, suddenly that person who might be a shrinking violet goes, oh, I do have a place at the table. Be that empower. We all need to empower each other.
I love that. Call out and reinforce the positive behavior.
Yes. It's too easy to go, you didn't do this, and why didn't you do this? Be the person. Like, my wife is very, very good at this. She's very much an encourager. And when she first meets people and she encourages them, they're always like, okay. after a while they kind of get addicted to it. Like they need her, and it's a beautiful gift, and it's what we should all be doing more often.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, the world is a better place with you, Jeff, with your wife, with your family. I'm not just saying that. I mean, it truly is. And the leadership laboratory is all about action, like doing the experiment, stepping into it. And like you're saying, what do you want to leave your audiences feeling, thinking, and doing? So if you had to leave our listeners with one experiment to try this week, what's something that they could actually test out based on what we talked about today?
I'm gonna go towards voice and body.
Okay.
And I'm gonna challenge you on. I'll do one of each, and you choose. The voice, a little bit louder than you're used to, and a little bit just. We all have a natural band of our voice. I don't care gender, size, whatever. We all have a natural band in our voice. Go to that slightly deeper spot in your, not mine, not Barry White's, your natural, slightly lower spot, and also a little more stillness. Watch out for the fidgets, watch out for the movements. And if you're going to move with a specific purpose in mind to show what you're saying.
Okay. I love it. Voice, body. We've got it. Jeff, is there anything we haven't covered that you wanted to cover, or anything I haven't asked that I should have asked?
Enjoy the process. This is the oft overlooked skill in business, and I'm going to speak in cliches here for a second. You might get a promotion based off of your skill, but you're really only going to move forward with any sort of momentum if you can communicate well. I often see people promoted because they're really good at what they do, and they get stuck in that next level because honestly, they've moved up to management level and they're not doing the technical thing like they did before. And so now they're just managing people. Work on your communication skills, communicating one-on-one, communicating in a small group, communicating at a big team meeting, whatever it is, little by little, little by little. And I love what you said, Jamie, like enjoy the dopamine hits. You're going to feel them. It's going to feel great. And you're going to get a little addicted to it, and you're going to get better and better. And if you take a ding and you go, oh, that didn't go so well, great. That's okay. We'll get them next time. We'll get them next time. We'll get them next time. It's worth it. It's totally worth it.
I love it. Well, and this is where I would love to mention too, Jeff, that you have an online course called Clear, Confident, and Compelling. So if you want to go deeper on what Jeff shared today, you can find that at his website, and we'll put that link in the show notes. And otherwise, Jeff, thank you so very much for being here. This was such an honor and a privilege to me, and I know to our listeners. Will you come back sometime?
I would love to, Jamie. This is you are always very fun. And again, let me just throw a little shout out for Jamie. All along the way, I don't know if you noticed what she did, but I would start to blah, 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 and she would go, "Oh, it's this," and she would have a little phrase and a little simple way of putting what I had just said. That's a gift. That's not accidental. That's a gift. I call that coalescing. You take a big gibberish thing that I'm giving out, and you go, how about this? And then the people can go, there it is. So Jamie, great gift. I'm sure you bring that to every podcast and every coaching session. So way to go. I'm encouraging you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I received that. Thank you. All right, Lab Cats. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I have, and you know what to do next. Craft your experiment, test it out. If you want, come join us in the Leadership Laboratory session itself to hold yourself accountable and to get some practice in a low stakes environment. Check out the show notes for Jeff's contact information. And if your organization is looking for someone to amplify public speaking skills, well, I sure hope your search ended here. And we'll see you next time, listeners, when you hear from a woman who has jumped hurdles, not just figuratively, but literally, and been extremely successful in a male-dominated industry, the sports world. And in the meantime, keep choosing progress over perfection. Until next time, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with one woman in your life who needs to hear it. That is how we grow this community, one incredible leader at a time. Keep experimenting, keep growing, and focus on progress over perfection.